Welcome back to my kitchen. As you can see, I'm here in Houston, back at my test kitchen. Today I'm going to be making a dish that I was reminded of this last weekend when I visited Nogales, Arizona for my mother-in-law's celebration of life. What I was reminded of was a dish that I had 30 years ago when I first visited San Diego with my wife to visit her family, her sister and sister's husband. And they made a dish that I was not expecting, and one that I had never heard of before. At that time, I guess 30 years ago, I had a very limited scope of different foods, and definitely different foods of the world. They described what they called a Spanish tortilla. And of course, at the time, my understanding of a tortilla was store-bought in a plastic wrapper. I knew that somebody made tortillas, flour tortillas, corn tortillas, but a Spanish tortilla, I'd never heard of it termed that way. And especially when I saw them starting to make it, I thought, tortilla, this is nothing I've ever seen. But really what it is a potato omelet. And in Spain, it's used for almost as a side dish to any meal. In some cases, a main dish to any meal. It can be used for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It can be used as a late night comfort food snack. It can be used as a snack during the day. Sitting around with friends and sharing wedges of Spanish tortilla, or sitting by yourself and having a cup of coffee. It is the perfect food in my mind. Potato, onion, and egg. 3 ingredients, but the way they come together and meld it elevates those 3 ingredients into something else. The potatoes and the onions are slowly, I would say fried, but really bathed in olive oil to soften before adding the egg and cooking it on the stovetop. I'll go through the steps on how I learned how to make that. I believe it's pretty authentic, to be honest with you. There's a lot of nuance in how the components come together to make the dish, but it's a wonderful thing to perfect, and I don't claim to have perfected it, but I do enjoy making it, and I do enjoy eating it. I'm going to make it tonight. I'll probably have it for breakfast tomorrow because I like it cold. It's just as good hot right out of the pan, but the flavors that come together after it cooks and sits in the fridge for a couple hours or overnight, and then you slice it up, it's just so good. So thank you to Bernice and Lolo for teaching me or making it in front of me so I can learn it, and thank you to my wife for being the test subject for many Spanish tortillas. Failures, by the way, of Spanish tortillas through the years as I've tried to make them. Again, I'm just going to make a standard one. You could add a lot of different ingredients like cheese, or maybe some kind of a melty cheese, a Monterey Jack or something like that, or peppers, which is the version that I had in Nogales this last weekend, was with some roasted red pepper, and it was delicious. Elsa, a very awesome take on the Spanish tortilla. You can add chorizo or other types of meat to it, but I'm going to go with classic. I'm going to go with just onion and just potato and egg, and try to do my wife's family proud in making a Spanish tortilla. The nice thing about Spanish tortillas, you usually have the ingredients in the house. So I've got I've got a half an onion here. I'll probably use about 3/4 of that half. I like a lot of onion in my Spanish tortilla, and I've got a mix of some small yellow potatoes that I had and a couple of russets. I would have used all yellow potatoes, but I didn't have enough, so I had to supplement with a couple of russets, but that should work fine. I had those sitting in water mainly because I was peeling them and I didn't want them to get brown. But how I like these cut is some pretty thin slices. You can use a mandolin for this, but I prefer to use a knife in general. Because mandolins scare me. So I'm not being very exact with these, and you know I might not need all of these potatoes, but you know this is a dish that you definitely want the pan as it's sautéing in the olive oil to be filled with potato and onion, mostly potato. Some of the mistakes I've made in the past when I've tried to make this is being very judicious, or another word would be not using enough of potato, and so it becomes a very eggy mixture. You can see how small these are diced or sliced. Showing off my horrible knife skills here, but these are nice to cut, so I like cutting potatoes with that are this consistency. Some knife skill comments here. You can probably see, I didn't get all the way through on that one, that I'm holding what I'm cutting with my fingers, kind of like a claw grip, and letting the knife, I don't know if you can see that, but slide against my hand. So I never have my fingers out in the blade path, and I never have, you know, holding it this way. So it's really all about letting the knife slide against the back of my fingers here. Yeah, and let the hand, as it rolls back, be the guide. I might not even need these russets, but I'm going to cut one of these just to mix it in, just in case. I'm making a small batch because I'm one person. That's a mantra for me. I'm only one person. If I was making this for a larger group to enjoy, or even a group of two to enjoy, I would probably make this in a 10-inch pan, or maybe even a 12-inch pan, and would need some more potatoes. But make sure these are all separated here. But because I'm making this just as a single serving, basically, it'll be, honestly, I should probably make it a 2 or 3 serving, but I'll eat the whole thing in the morning. I'm sure I will. I might even sneak a piece tonight when it's done. That's the way I roll. Yeah, so anyway, I think that's probably good. Let's get this onion cut. I want this onion to melt and be very soft, so I'm cutting it crossways instead of long ways. So across the grain, getting a nice dice on this. I've seen it done both ways. I've seen onion that go into Spanish tortilla, and I've done it both ways with longer strands, but I like, and I think my wife prefers, to have these smaller pieces that soften up quite a bit. Okay, so that's the ingredients right there, and then of course eggs, which I'll add in a minute. But what I'm going to do is then bring the pan over and start sautéing, I guess you would call it sautéing, the potatoes in oil. And it's going to cook for a little while, so because I want to go on a slow heat. I don't want these to be brown potatoes, crispy. I just need them to soften in the oil and cook in the oil slowly. So yeah, let me get the pan over and we can go from there. Okay, so this is the size of the pan I'm going to be using. It's a 8.5-inch non-stick pan. I've done it in cast iron pans. It turns out really good if you have a well-seasoned cast iron pan. You just need to make sure it's well oiled so the eggs don't stick when you're cooking the tortilla. One of the fun parts for me in this dish is actually the flipping of the tortilla, because you can cook this in on one side on the stovetop and then put it in the oven. But then the texture is different out of the oven. It becomes more frittata or quiche-like. It gets a little fluffy inside because of the dry heat inside of the oven. And I should have been better about keeping these separate because I want the potatoes first and then the onions. It's good that way. It's good out of the oven, doing a pan sear on the bottom and then tossing it in the oven for 20 minutes or so to let the center of the egg cook. But I prefer it on the stovetop, both sides, and flipping it, and I'll show you that technique when we get there. Okay, so I'm going to bathe this in a fair amount of olive oil, and I will have some olive oil left when I'm done. You can see I'm putting quite a bit in here, but again, I really want these potatoes to really take on the olive oil flavor. I'll be dumping a lot of that off as we get to the actual egg portion, but this is going to go on the stove for, boy, it'll probably be, maybe 15 minutes or so, maybe 10 minutes. And then I'll put the onions in and saute those along with it, but I want the potatoes to get a head start, and I'll move the camera over so you can see it on the stovetop. All right, here we are on the stovetop. I'm going to turn this on to a medium-low heat. I really don't want this to fry. I want it to simmer. My stovetop is a little bit touchy, so I may have to manage that a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of salt on this, but I'll also salt and pepper the egg mixture before I put that in. Imparting a little salt on the potatoes is never a bad thing. They will absorb it, no problem at all. You can see that I've got a little bit of a mixture of yellow potato. I used all of the yellow potatoes I had, and a few of the russet potatoes that I cut up. I could probably put more potatoes in this, to be honest, but this should make a pretty good Spanish tortilla. So we're going to let this simmer and try to break up some of these parts that didn't cut all the way through. But let this get going. I'll be back when I put in the onions. You can see the progress and move on from there. Okay, as you can probably see, we've got a nice slow simmer going on here. Again, I want to really watch this and make sure that I'm not frying this at a high temp. Something like a deep fry temperature, 350, 375, something like that. I want this to be kind of a slow simmer so it doesn't go past the browning stage or become the browning stage. So this has been going for about 5 minutes now. I'm going to add in my onion and let it start to cook down. My trusty bench scraper here. And I'll mix that onion, those two things together, the onion and potato, and let those cook together. Again, I've got a little bit of salt in here, not a lot. I'm sure you're saying, wow, that's a lot of oil. You're right, it is a lot of oil, but we're going to dump a lot of that off, and it can be reused. It's not going to waste. It'll be flavored oil. It'll be flavored like potato and onion and a little bit of salt, but it'll be perfectly fine. I'll save it in the fridge, and we can use that for other dishes throughout the week. You want to make sure that there's enough oil to not deep fry the eggs when they hit, but you definitely want the the omelet to release a little bit of oil as it's cooking. That's going to help it separate from the pan when we flip it. And I like to flip it a couple of different times just to help shape the tortilla. It becomes a very authentic shape. It's like a puck, for lack of a better way to say it, an 8-inch puck, and that's the perfect shape to slice. So we're going to let this cook down for a little bit, and then we'll come back when we go to the next stage, which will be adding the eggs. Okay, this has been going for about 10 minutes now. You can see that I've been mixing it a few times just to make sure we get all cooked here. I want to test some of these potatoes just to see where we are. We're getting close. They're still a little bit firm. Know that they're going to be cooking also with the egg mixture, but I want to make sure that they're soft. It's okay if they start breaking apart. We're not looking for uniformity with these slices here. We just want to make sure that they're cooked and they'll become the structure of the omelet or the tortilla. So that's pretty close. I'm going to move the camera back over to the other side. Actually, I'm not going to move the camera. I'm going to leave it right here. I'll just manage in front of me here. So this is getting close, and before I want to just watch for the potatoes to start that browning. We definitely don't want it to get brown and crusty, but just to start getting to that point where the moisture is cooked out of the potato and it starts to brown a little bit, which we're pretty close to that right now. And then I'm going to dump some of the oil off and add the eggs, and from there it just becomes a mechanism of waiting for the eggs to cook and flipping it over a couple times. So I'll have, I think I'm going to use 3 eggs. I've got some pretty good size, let's see here, pretty good size eggs. So we'll use 3 eggs. I'm going to whisk those together, put a little salt in there because I want to impart that flavor on the eggs. It'll actually help retain the moisture, as will the onions that are inside of the mixture here. So I think what I'll do now, I'll go ahead and carefully drain off some of this oil. You can see this. I just want to make sure that I get a good portion of this oil off of I'm dumping it the wrong way for the camera to see. I apologize for that. But there you go. So you can see now that we've got this potato and onion mixture. And I'm going to turn the heat down just a bit now because it'll start frying without all that oil in there. But you can see the amount of oil that I poured off of this. Again, I can reuse this for other dishes. I may even use some as I flip the tortilla after the eggs are put in. So next thing I'm going to do is put in 3 eggs. I'm assuming you can see that. We will make sure, actually a little bit off camera. Let me just help with that a little bit. There you go. So there's 1 egg. There's 2 eggs. Oh, come back. There's 3 eggs. This pan would probably hold at least 4 eggs, but I am I'll put a little salt in there right now. I don't want to over egg the mixture, and I don't have quite a full pan. Just give these a nice froth there. And I will give this one more flip just to make sure we're nice and mixed. And here comes the eggs. All right, now it's just a waiting game. We want to make sure that the eggs are nice and coated. I'm going to bump the heat up just a hair. I want this to start just bubbling around the outside. Turn this back over so we can get a better view here. There we go. All right, so I've turned the heat up just a little bit. I'm going to let this cook for a minute. Again, I want the egg to really be set on the bottom before I start really messing with this. But you can see that this is going to be a very loaded potato egg mixture, and that's exactly what we want. I'm going to put a little, my own preference, a little cracked pepper on top. I already got some salt in there, so that's good. When it flips over, it'll, of course, cook on the other side. But this, I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but this is what you want to see. Just around the edges, you want to see that oil frying up around the egg. And you can also already see it starting to set, which is exactly what we want. I don't want this too hot. I don't want to burn the eggs. So if this gets to going too hot, or I start seeing a lot of, simmering inside of the egg here, I want to turn that down because I really want this to slow cook those eggs. I don't want brown eggs. Brown eggs or burnt eggs, which I don't mind. I like, in some cases, I like a browned egg, but when we're talking about omelets, I prefer a lighter finish on the egg. You kind of need a little bit of browning inside of a Spanish tortilla just because it needs to hold together. So it will be browned, but I just don't want it to burn. All right, we're going to let this go for a minute. And once that center starts to set, I'm going to put a lid on it so it can steam from the top a little bit. So once the center starts to set, then we'll work on flipping it over. Okay, you can see that this is starting to set up. It's still pretty loose in the middle, but we've got a nice firm outside on it. Now there's a couple ways that I have done the flip, because you obviously need to cook the other side. One way is to just set a plate right on top and flip it over. I've done that many times. I've been 75 to 80% successful with that. I've lost a couple, let me put it that way. The other thing you can do is just, if this is firm enough, you can dump this out, but it's got to be able to hold well enough, and you still need to do a flip. It just, maybe it's the opposite way of putting this on top and flipping the whole thing onto a plate, as opposed to putting this down in the plate and then putting the pan on top and flipping it back over. Either way, you're flipping it. I should probably be doing this over the garbage can or over the sink, but you know, I'm a glutton for punishment, so here we go. I'm gonna do it the old-fashioned way, and just like that. So now I've got the bottom of the tortilla has been browning or cooking. It looks good. You can see that it's a little brown. Might have been a little bit hot, but now we just simply are going to put this right back into the pan, and it's going to be a little bit sloppy, and that's okay. Just put it right back in there and let it cook on the other side, and we will tuck these pieces in. And we'll use this plate again. We'll flip it once or twice more. But you can see that it's now starting to take that puck shape I was talking about. And it's okay that it's uneven. It's gonna needs to cook and brown on this side. It won't take quite as long on this side, but I want to make sure that we get it nice and solid. So the difference between cooking it in the oven and cooking it on the stovetop, we could have put it in the oven before flipping it there, just let it cook. But it creates a lighter center, and I like the center to be creamier and a little more dense. And cooking it on the stovetop and letting it pan fry on both sides gives you that. So we'll let this cook for a minute or a couple minutes here just to make sure that it's solid, and we'll give it another flip. Just want you to see, you can see that this is exactly what I was talking about. You want enough oil in there so the omelet is leaching oil and allowing the tortilla to fry. You can see that it's loose. I mean, it's not sticking at all. Part of that has to do with it being a nonstick pan. The other part of it has to do with the oil that's involved. I could have probably used 4 eggs with this amount, but I didn't want it to be too eggy. I wanted to really highlight the onion and potato in this, which it's going to do. I mean, I can already tell. It smells delicious. You can't smell it on the camera, but I'm sure you know. Onion and potato frying in olive oil, how could it not be a great smell? We'll put this back on for a little bit longer. We'll give it another flip, and we're gonna flip it a couple times because I want to make sure that we get a good even browning. So we're just going to do the same thing we did last time. Just flip it right over. It gets easier, obviously, the more it cooks. It's you know, it's not quite holding together the way I would have hoped it would, and maybe that has to do with I didn't mix the eggs well enough. But I'm going to give it you know, just a couple more minutes on each side. Make sure that we get it cooked. You can see that it's starting to firm up in the middle. So I think we're close to being done. I just want to make sure that we've got it browned enough to hold together. So now that you've seen the flip and the egg mixture go in, I'm going to move the camera back, and I'll plate it up on the back side after I get it done frying in the pan. Okay, we're just finishing up the final cook. I've turned it 4 times to each side on the Spanish tortilla, and I'm going to plate it up now. I'm going to do one more flip just to plate it because I want the downside to be the upside. And let me get the correct hand on this so I don't mess it up right at the end. That would not be good. All right. There is our Spanish tortilla. I'm going to top it off with a little bit of grated or minced Parmesan, parsley, just to give it some color because, you know, why not presentation? It's just going to be for me eating it, but let me get a pan down of this so you can see the finished dish. And when I cut it, after it cools for a minute, I'll show some pictures of that. Yeah, I hope I did justice to what is an acquired recipe that I got 30 years ago, Spanish tortilla. Okay, as I mentioned, I put a little bit of parsley on top just for presentation purposes, but there's the Spanish tortilla. Now, if I were to make this with 4 eggs or fill the pan with that other potato that I cut or more potatoes, this would be a little bit higher. This would be a little bit thicker, which is probably the more authentic way because I was making this for one person. I went with a smaller amount of eggs and potato, which meant I should have probably used a smaller pan, but that's the pan I had. So it turned out to be a little bit flatter, but that's okay. It's still going to be delicious. Spanish tortilla.